you ready? I'm Greener. I'm James.
But you're more than James.
I'm James Laxton.
I'm here with the movie.
James.
Hi, my name is Malgorzata Rabczuk. I'm not here with a movie, but I'm excited to be here.
I'm Jasper Spanning. I'm here with my second feature, The Guilty. That's in the director's debut competition, and very happy to be here. Thanks for coming.
Hello everybody, my name is Cecile. I'm from China. I just finished my first feature, but it didn't get into this festival yet. I was with Ed in this May in Cannes Film Festival. I was the one who got the Junior Excellence in Cinematography, the special encouragement.
I'm a DOP, which I always thought was stands for displaced person.
I work as Gaffer. I'm Julie. I'm from Kazakhstan. Live and work in Germany.
She used to be an astronaut, of course, because that's where all the space shuttles go off from in Asia. I'm Super Chris. Sorry, I'm very humbled to be here and pretend that I don't care that you love my work. So let's talk about the work. That's why we're here, because you're going to tell us. And please respond. You can stand up. You're supposed to do the wave from time to time, okay? Just do the wave from time to time. And in the meantime, we'll try to pretend you're not there and talk about what matters to us, which is 3 people in cinema. If you're thirsty and you want to talk, just come on up with us, please. Okay. But in the meantime, we'll play a clip or two, please. Can we play 3 people in cinema, please? I've been on the set with 365 people standing around eating lots of pizza and snacks. I'm getting very impressed by our work, because ultimately I think it's really, there's only a small number of us actually making the film. The rest is emballage, as they say in French. But I may be wrong.
I like other people sometimes, though. They're nice. I just like that they're fun. They're fun. I like people, so it's fun to make movies with more people than 3 sometimes.
Yeah, I think a crew matters a lot, great deal to me, and the way you put together a crew and kind of establish a place where people feel free to do their thing and to complement your work and help you out. I definitely believe that more heads think better than a few. So I love to involve especially the people right around me, in the camera department and in lighting and stuff. So
what does a gaffer do? What really matters in the process of filmmaking? This is my question.
The collaboration.
As a gaffer.
Yeah, like the strong relationship, like with the crew, collaboration.
Speak slowly. Some people don't speak English. No, seriously. I'm not being.
Well, it's very like it's a collaborative process. Everyone matters, and you all have to work, like, be on the same like language of scene and cinema.
I have one question for you. Do you do you choose your projects as well because you're interested in like what is your choice because of the crew you are working with, or you are as well interested in story or what you are shooting?
Everything comes to story, especially like when you work with light. You have to think of like how light speaks in that story and what is due.
How much freedom does your cameraman give you?
Cameraperson.
What?
You said cameraman.
Oh, that's right.
No,
I said
no,
camera
no,
person.
No,
I was told last time at the end I should say camera person or cinematographer. We're in the Me Too movement, you.
See the person behind the camera.
Oh, that's good.
It's
All right.
most
That
safe,
politically
safest.
correct?
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
politically. Is that okay,
Whoever's
everyone?
behind the camera. So my question is, how you work with the cinematographer. Do you find, I mean, is it different in Germany than where other places you've worked? Do they give you more freedom, or they tell you exactly what they want done? And how do you feel? Like, if you think there's a better way to do something, what do you do with the cameraman?
Person. Ed. Camera person.
Oh!
We're not gonna, he's not gonna talk again. It's finished.
Every project is different. I have one cinematographer in London who I work with usually, and we've been working together for a long time, so she trusts me a lot and I'll speak my opinion. So sometimes she would give me complete freedom. She would be just telling me like what she like going after, and that would be just like a suggestion how we're going to execute it and what's going to be best for the project. And then sometimes I work in Germany with some DPs who are more like they dictate me, like not dictating, they more they know more about how they want to do it, and I will just follow.
Every film I start, I think it's the first film I've ever done. It's never, you come with your collective experience, but every situation is different. So it doesn't change, you know, the level of anticipation. But I was going to ask you, Chris, how do you work with a gaffer?
I look up to them.
All right.
I think, I'm sure most of us have the same experience. I only do 20% of the work. Right? They do 70 to 80%. I have no, I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to be invited to the RE party and the Panavision party and all this, because I have no idea what the fucking do. That's a camera, really? Oh, really? Oh. And I'm holding it every day of my life, and my back is, because I've been hand-holding an RE camera for most of my life, so my spine is like this. But it's part of you. It's, you know, the camera to me is like your wheelchair. It's like it's a part of your the way you engage. So, but if I don't trust you, if you're not preparing the dolly tracks, if we're not getting on with it, then how can we be free to actually, quote unquote, find the black in lacquer? You're the ones who are making the lacquer. We're just forming the cup. I think this is why, you know, I mean, I'm sounding like Storaro now, fucking hell. I'm sorry. It's my Second World War injury. Okay, here we go. I feel like fucking Dr. Strangelove right now. Anyway, so there we are. I think this is why we have our team on stage now. It's about trust. It's about this wonderful thing called letting people do what they do best to take you somewhere you wouldn't go alone. I really believe that's what happens. You work with the people that you care about, that you love, that mean something to you, that you slept with last. No, you didn't have to sleep with everyone. Now, but film school is really good for your sex life. What I mean is, camera person that I am. I think we're saying it has to be about people. It has to be, even the technical stuff has to be about people. The engagement has to be based in trust. It has to be this astonishing thing that you can go off and think your wild dreams, and yet somebody will help you realize them. It will take you somewhere further than you could go alone. And I think that's what, to me, that's what a team is about. And as I say, I mean, I'm the only person working in Chile. I'm the only non-Chilean working there. But once you create this energy, this atmosphere of trust, this intent, which is higher than, you know, the budget, then people, everyone, all over the world, they will always come up to it. It's so beautiful. But we have to lead. We have to give the energy. And then people, they see old men like us doing what we do.
Speak for yourself.
I love your work. And you intimidate them into being really good. It's great fun. And then, but I really believe that our gaffer will do.
So what happens when it doesn't work that way? Because it's not always the perfect family.
You do what you can, as we say, we're older men. You do what, I'm going to say this in public. You do what you can, not what you want. Unless you have some blue pills.
I don't know outside of China, but in China, like I always with gaffers who is much older than me, and yeah, really much older, like 20 years older. And because the situation in China, we don't have gaffer like you. We are like the gaffers are more from village, like outside of city, and the lower educations, and it's been very hard to build the trust, like how they can trust you because you are here. Yeah.
I was going to make it stereo.
No, because okay, I'm gonna tell a story. The first feature I shoot is when I was 22, 23. I was working with a gaffer who is like in his early 40. And in China we have this kind of situation, like we're working super long hour, and that was a day that very super hot in summer. And we work for 23 hours, I think. And at the end of the shooting at that day, the gaffer is just yelling at the director. And the director fired him, like at the same moment, he yelling at him. But I have to like sit in between, I think. So everybody, like we finished today and we will take a break for 5 hours. And after 5 hours, let's figure out this together. Yeah, that's the situation.
How did it work out?
It works out like this 5 hours, everybody is asleep, but I'm not. I'm talking to the producer because this is a gaffer which I want to hire at the first moment. So I'm talking to the producer and talking to the gaffer and talking to the director. And after five hours, and the director and the gaffer are sitting at the same table, and they are both saying something like, I'm sorry, but my people can't work for this kind of hour. And director say, I'm sorry too, but it's my first film. I thought it's very important. It's my first film. I'm director, I'm leading actor. I'm very pressured. So at this moment, I just can't stand that. You yelling at me, and you like you break the respect and the trust. But after that, we decided we still hire this gaffer and continue shooting for the next 30 days.
For me, just to continue on Chris's metaphor of the cup, to look inside of the cup and see what's inside the cup. For me, I think like not just us, but every department and every position is telling stories. Like you have the prop person choosing a cup, and maybe it's a green cup. Hey, it's a green cup, and it's for a particular like purpose of story or culture or kind of creation. I think the gaffer and the key grip is in the US the same thing. Like we're choosing diffusion, qualities of diffusion. Maybe we're taking the 4x frame and stretching, grandma's curtain across it instead of diffusion because of some certain storytelling quality that means something. So this is how I like to work with the gaffer, and grip. For me, it's just kind of trying to engage them in a way that's deeper than just a technical craft, and something that's can be more personal and can be, you know, a bit more, you know, deeper into the storytelling process. For me, that's sort of how I like to engage with them.
We have a new member of the team.
Oh, hello everybody. I'm sorry I'm late. My film was just screening, and so I was like running here to be on time.
You mean you haven't seen it before?
Well, I had to be there for the Q&A session, so that's the reason. But so excuse me for being late.
You haven't said who you are.
Oh, my name is Joewi Verhoeven. I was also at part 1, so maybe some of you know me already. I'm the cinematographer of a film called Ash, which was screening here.
Chinese film.
Yes. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, man. Yes.
The one I didn't do, huh?
So yeah, it's an honor. He keeps on saying that I'm stealing his jobs, but that's absolutely not the case. So no worries.
He only asked for $50,000 per day more than I do. But so let's play another clip to move on. The next one, because I think to me, it's about space. It's about the engagement with space. It's about, sorry, they can hear me. They know I'm full of shit. Okay, so could we play clip number 5, please? A person writes a script in a room, and it says, "It was a snowy night, and she was so lonely." How the fuck do you film that? And then we're in the middle of, Yunnan province, in the middle of summer. It's 40 degrees Celsius outside, and how are we going to do it? So I think, to me, that this balance between an idea on paper and how we realize it is really the basis of what we do. And in my way is to get involved, as you see here, as early as possible in the locations, to go and see where we're shooting, to make the words, give them a physical space, to give them the space they deserve, like we say, away with words. It's really, because, I don't know, I think we all have similar and different experiences about this. It says, well, why it says we're going to shoot this? But unless you put another $100 million into it, you won't get snow in the middle of August in Yunnan province in China. So I think, to me, that the engagement as early as possible in the process of the preparation of that actually the location and our ideas actually inform the script more than the script informs our work. I don't know. That's my.
Yeah, no, but I do agree with what you're saying. It's interesting to me that what I hear you saying a little bit is about a personal, how we find ourselves on the screen. We don't write the screenplays, and we don't produce the movies, and we don't perform them, but somehow we find ourselves on there a little bit. And I actually sometimes make sure, like, when I say thank you letters to crew, sometimes after a film is over, I end it usually by saying, I hope you see yourself on the screen later. Because to me, it's very much that thing of, yeah, you're right, how do you, it's too hot outside, it's not snowing, but somehow you still find a lonely place in the province. And anyway, that is about finding yourself a little bit on the screen, to me.
Part of what I think they're saying is, don't be afraid to acknowledge when the crew has an idea. The first thing I do is, to everyone, to the director, say, he had this idea, I think it's great. So engage the crew in a way that they feel they're participating in the process, that you're not taking all the credit. And I think that will go a long way with them supporting you in what you are. And also, don't be afraid to say, I'm not sure how to do this. What do you think? I mean, ultimately, you're going to be the one who makes the decision, the same way if a director says to you, they're not sure about something. So don't be afraid to say you're not sure about how to do something, because then that would, what happens I've seen when I was not a DP and I worked as an operator, people will shut down if you just tell them this is the way it is and they can't contribute. So it's even on the level of the way directors work with actors. If a lot of times, if the director doesn't allow the actor to have their interpretation of what they want to do, they will shut down, and the director can still get what they want, but they give the impression to the actor that they've at least tried something that they wanted to do. So I think that goes a long way with also the way we can work with crew. And the idea of what Chris is saying about how our limitations, certainly when you have all the options to do something, it's almost harder than when you have the limitations to do something, that you can, that your limitations can be your strength, and you have to look at it that way. The other point is, when I was younger, I always thought there was one way to do it, and it was my way to do it, and I would argue with the director because I knew that was a solution to the problem, because we're problem solvers. You know, director gets there, and when I've directed, I know there's 6 different ways of doing something. When I get there as a cinematographer, I know I have to come up with a solution to the problem to do it, because I have a schedule and I got to get to the next shot of the next scene. And also try to embrace, the hardest thing to do, I think, is listen. And though not all directors are visual, but try to understand why they want to do something, and then maybe you can change their idea about how to do it. Because they might know the reason why, but they don't always know the reason how. And to me, that's the difference between a cinematographer and a director, that we have the language of how, and we have to be more open to the why.
And what I wanted to add as well, like what you said, it's very important, I think, to consider all the team working on the movie, like, and you take into consideration that, like, you all start at some point, like, assisting someone, and like everyone who, even if they want to get involved, it's great to create this kind of family, and just to know that because someone is doing like something that might be like very technical, it doesn't mean that he doesn't or she has as well something important to add to the creative part of the process.
Yeah, I'll add something to that. As you talk about it, trying to be okay with not knowing what to do is, I think, where I find strength, actually, because being a new DP, and you constantly face a lot of new challenges, and you really, for me, it's pretty emotional to make a film, because you really have to put yourself into it, and at the same time, everything is new and everything is a big challenge. So being able to share that with the people around you, and letting yourself be in doubt and letting yourself open up to that is actually very comforting. Instead of, for me at least, instead of trying to look like I know what I'm doing when I'm not. That's really scary, actually.
No. You have to pretend you know what you're doing. Hello. You have no fucking idea. You're lost. You're thinking, oh shit. But I think cinematography is also about leadership. It's about budget. It's about, it's about somebody coming late, etc., etc. I mean, I think Ed tried to express it. I made a film with a young woman. I think it was her first film as director, a woman director in China. And she kept on saying, 问题是, she said, the problem is. I said, no, there's no problem. It was like kotoyu, how do you say it in English? It was a habit she had. 问题是, I said, no, there's no problem. The point is, our role is to resolve, is to push things, move things forward, is to engage in some way where there is no. Of course, it's supposed to be snowing, and she's supposed to look lonely, but she's really arrogant bitch. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. And she's not a great actress. So what are you going to do? Shoot from behind. Our role is to give resonance to ideas. Our role is to resolve questions. Our role is to give an idea the image it deserves. And so, 没有问题. There's no problem. There's no question.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at your computer for a second, Chris, and it says, why am I not a painter on your keyboard? I'm just wondering why you're not a painter. Why are you a cinematographer?
I'm giving a talk tonight at 9:30, which will explain everything.
Okay.
I'm not a painter because I'm a poet.
Yeah.
You know the famous quote from Buñuel? It says, a movie has to be... Hold on, let me think. I'll get it right, okay. A camera has to be like the eyes of a poet inside the head of a painter. It's true. I mean, we have to see in another way. We have to. Our responsibility is to give resonance, is to give form, to color, to contrast, to space, to an idea. And so, how you get there? Again, where I think we've talked about it in different ways. That of course we can't do it alone. We need the team to take us to a certain level. We need the trust and the integrity of the relationship with people you work with. You have to work with people you love. Don't waste your life on this person, Cameron, what's his first name?
Paul Cameron?
James.
James.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, and the other one, what's the other fucker's name? Give us some names, come on. Don't work with these fuckers, you know. Work with people you love, work with people who care, and work with people that you've grown up with or have a similar integrity, you know. Otherwise, you're gonna waste 24 hours, 7 days a week for 6 months with someone you don't love? Are you crazy? But I spend time with people I love, like Tilda Swinton. Number 6, please. Because it matters, because one afternoon in Shanghai, we spent some time together, just one afternoon, and this is what happened.
Look, it's a question of what you experience with the camera. I mean, what makes film different than a book, a poem, or a song? It's the optics of the camera that you're experiencing the world with, and that's what you're doing when you share with us.
By the way, most of that was shot with a lens baby, which you can buy for $150 US. Yeah. So it's not about, oh, sorry. There's Agnew people here. You have to be polite. If you don't have an Agnew lens, then you could have a lens baby. Okay. It's the eye in the head of the poet that I mean, I'm not claiming to be a poet, but we're trying to get there. Right? And I think that the engagement, this astonishing honor and pleasure that we have to work with such an astonishing person like Tilda is you're there. Like we started at the beginning. There's only 3 people in cinema, and that engagement is what, to me, what it's all about. It's not the optics.
All right, so, well, when I say the optics, what your mind's eye is, but the practical question is, you have the poetry, how do you instill that in a director that doesn't have the poetry? We've all been there. Well, let's start with him. You know.
Me?
I mean, all right, they're all young starting out, but this is a practical question about, you know, some director's going to say, I don't want all that footage out of focus, you know, or whatever it is that you want to try. So on a practical level, how are you able to interface with the director, who's the ultimate say in what your images can be? How do you maneuver with that?
I mean, like, the director that I work with the most, he has more of a literature background. He used to be he used to review films and write books. So his mindset is very abstract. So when we talk about the visuals, he uses words like for example, solitude, or something like that, which is
How do you film solitude?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I try to do is give him all kinds of ideas, visual references, and then, he can't really describe exactly what he's looking for, but he knows what he's not looking for. And I think by going through that process, step by step, you're getting closer to something, the core. And then that's kind of like what you're both looking for. And once you have that, and I think that is something that you go through in pre-production. Ideally, before you start the first day, you're there already. And then you place that camera, you have that certain angle, you have a certain stop you're shooting in. And if you do it right, then that is what the director is looking for. And I know that I'm doing a good job when he sees the frame and he's like, okay, we can shoot. But that's definitely not always the case. So we're also, even on set, we're still looking for that direction. But we know there's that core, and that's kind of like my process on how we find that.
I totally agree. It's that sense of discovery.
Right.
The problem is, do you have the time to do that? And you need the director to understand that without the AD standing over you and the producer they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So what are they doing? We got to get the shot before lunch. So it really takes the director, you really have to, like you said, spend enough time in pre-production. With first-time directors, I always break down every shot I can with the director. So when we're on the set, we can then improvise so that at least they have the security of knowing they have a game plan. So I think that's very important. Now, very experienced directors might not necessarily, that's not their process because they already know what the options are to do it. But as much as you can engage the director in the ideas to tell the story before you get there, and it's best to do it in the space, on the location, with the director, even if you're not getting paid for the pre-production, show the interest to do that. I said the last time we were here that when I go for an interview with the director, I bring my own visual information, and even though it's maybe not their idea, and many times they look at me like, do you think you're directing the film? Which they don't say that, but I see it in their eyes, But I ask them questions. This one incident I asked the director, do you see this script as a naturalistic film or an expressionistic film? And he looked at me and said, what are you talking about? So I definitely didn't do that film. but it's important to get into those kind of dialogues so they see you have visual ideas. And it doesn't necessarily have to, I love what you said about, he says it's solitude. I think the best directors I've been around, even when they work with actors, they talk in those abstractions, and that allows you to complete the idea. And the other idea is about what a cinematographer is, or a camera person, is it's action reaction. We're another actor, and we're partaking with the actors, with the set, with the movement, with the space, with the light. We're reacting. So to me, the freedom of being able to participate with the image is what I like, and what I realized those were the kind of images I responded to.
I agree with that, and I was just to add on that exact same thought. I love getting direction like I'm an actor sometimes. If a director sometimes tells me, you're looking to get the keys, or you're giving me an action as if almost that you would, as a director, give an actor an action and a motivation for it. Sometimes that can click into my brain. Oh, yeah, I'll just talk loud. It would give me a motivation for where to place my camera, where the light goes, all these different things that can sometimes be abstractions. However, sometimes I really appreciate them, actually. And then the second thing I wanted to mention in regards to how to communicate with the director that might not speak the same language as sometimes some of us cinematographers might. I sometimes like to try to just impress upon them how powerful the tools are that we all share here. You know, looking at Chris's piece he just showed, it was quite moving, I thought. And you know, there was some power to those images that gave me a real feeling in myself that I just was reminded watching it how powerful a lens baby is, or a camera might be.
Almost as good as Anjinu.
Yeah, almost as good as Anjinu. And so, you know, I think if you impress upon them, you know, how powerful their choices will become, and they're only fleeting moments that we're capturing, but you'll remember them forever, that all of a sudden I think they might click, we need to take this seriously all of a sudden, and I need to sort of consider things that might be, you know, because directors sometimes work for months and months and years before writing scripts and developing projects and choosing actors. Sometimes they're, you know, not in the same place that we are. We're very present on the set because it's sort of our job to be so. So if you make sure to remind them how powerful the choices we're making when the AD's checking their watch and when lunch is coming up and when wrap is coming up, I think that's something I try to remind myself and my crew and definitely the director at times.
I have one question for you, because what about the beginnings? Because you are as well, like right now you are like considered cinematographer, so I imagine that when someone asks you to work with them, they as well listen to you a lot, because they know your work well. But at the beginning, because sometimes I had once this experience when I was working with someone who really didn't listen and wanted just to have everything focused, and not like this kind of typical, not at all daring to do some shots that were more, I don't know, like when there's some matter or...
You mean a technician or a director?
Director, yeah. And it's kind of difficult to communicate, with someone who doesn't know why he's working with you.
Yeah, look, it doesn't always work out. I said this before, that they say it's a marriage. I think it's a dance partner, and you're hearing the same music, but do your steps complement each other? So sometimes it's better, and this is my own way of doing it, not to disagree and then just do it the way you think you should do it. Because a lot of times...
Clip number 13 after Ed finishes, please.
What? All right. 13 or behind. No, I'm saying the hardest thing to do is not get into an ego trip with the director. And actually, why I like to work with women is I find women don't create that barrier of ego. And a lot of men I've worked with, it's kind of like my road or no road. So I have to try to work around it. So in situations I found where I'm diabolically in a different place than where I think it should be, I just do it, and then there's kind of acceptance, of the acknowledgement of, oh, it can work. Because I think the hardest thing to do is to show them what you're doing. Because a lot of times, and this is true, not all directors are visual, and they can't see in their mind's eye. If we're editing, we pre-visualize things as image makers. And I think that's the hardest thing for people that aren't in that mindset, is they can't pre-visualize what it is that we're doing. And so you have to show them.
I made a film with Neil Jordan in the summer in Ireland. And 60% of the film takes place at night. But there was only night between midnight and like 4 a.m. So we could have shot for like 100 days. Or we shot day for night. But Neil had never shot day for night before. He was terrified, you know, he had no idea. But it saved the film. Again, it's the same thing as Ed is talking about. That how do you take someone to a space? Of course, by the way, it's a dangerous space, because I'm saying that I can do something to save you money, or I might totally fuck up the whole film because I'm shooting day for night. So they were saying that the image of night in this film, for better and worse, is my image of night. So how the fuck do I dare to actually assert that, or be brave enough to say, this is the night of this film? And I think this is the great responsibility, and it's a huge, it's not just an artistic bullshit thing. It's a budget thing. It's a responsibility thing. It's not just style. It's how do we get this film? And then we're saying this film looks like this because we made it like this. And I think that's a huge and wonderful responsibility. And I think we have to take it. And if they fire us the next day, it's fine. But I think if we don't take that, if we don't make that step, if we don't make that assertion, if we're not confident enough, or what's the word, gregarious enough, or insane enough to say this film's going to look like this, then it will look like shit. You know, I don't know. That's my personal opinion.
One thing that we talked about last time was also the collective memory or experience you have with the director, or the crew for that matter, how important that is, because I find that words are often a poor way of communicating about visuals, because you can talk about blue all day, and you see two very different blues up in your head. So and that comes back to, I think, as well, as being directed as a cinematographer, is what knowing what the director means when he talks about solitude, or he talks about energy, or he or she talks about a feeling. So having a collective experience together with the director, I think, is one of the most valuable things in order to get there. And then the director maybe might not be visual in a traditional sense, but if you have a common understanding of what you mean when you talk about feelings through, you've experienced something together, I think that is really maybe the best tool when working with the director, and like actively seeking those experiences, which are not about your movie, which are not about finding the visuals of the movie, but yeah, you talked about going dancing, or
I think what I find very interesting about what you said is that there's this common thing you have with the director, but then a lot of times the cinematographer has a totally different cultural background as the director, right? Like, not from the same country, but then being able to still find that common thread, that's something universal. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very interesting chemistry happening. I think that's also one of the reasons why there are so many foreign cinematographers active, right? So
How many great American films have been shot by American cinematographers? 3, maybe. Everyone. Roger Deakins is not American, right? You know?
James is.
James, what?
He's Australian. Okay, so I'll see you in the bar. Tell us.
No, it's funny. I think but no, I do agree. The whole point of what we're talking about a little bit, I for sure agree with the idea of cultural things mixing. Barry, the director of Moonlight, is coming from a very different place than I come from. Whether that's, you know, a different country, it might as well have been, to be totally honest with you. And I think it's with these cultural clashes, call them clashes, call them collaborations, call them combinations, whatever you want to call them. It is in that sort of wild Venn diagram that has maybe a little or a lot to share with each other. I think that, I would believe personally, there's a great advantage to that, and I think that's something that I really value as a cinematographer. And I talked earlier on the last one a bit about, you know, how as a cinematographer you're invited into spaces. Barry invited me into his space for Moonlight. I don't belong in those areas, I don't belong in those rooms. But it was really powerful for me to do so, and I think what we're talking about here a little bit is related to that, the idea that we get invited and then we find ways to combine culture to make images that become universal and able to be seen in Kazakhstan or in Australia or Hong Kong or the US. I think that's, I don't know, I love that personally.
Yeah, my experience is that the more personal it is, the more universal it can be. It really is that simple.
But the point about the American consciousness towards images, all right? If you hire Chris Doyle, you're going to end up with a Wong Kar-wai film in America. So that's why you hire Chris. The only problem is they don't understand the process and they don't let you do it.
Do you know who I am? You don't. Because in China, I'm Duke of Hong. Hello. Right? 90% of Chinese people don't know I look like this. Thank God.
90% of Chinese don't know how to pronounce your name properly, actually.
And this is the huge freedom that I have, because none of you have this. I was born in Australia, but I'm a Chinese filmmaker. Hello. So, I'm inside. I'm part of Chinese whatever. Chinese life, Chinese culture, Chinese film, I don't know what you call it. But I can always step back. I'm like fucking Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel. I'm up there, you know, lying on my back, and then I go down, and I look at the, oh, that's not bad. A bit more tits. Oh, sorry, you know, a bit more Pope, whatever, right? So the great pleasure and the space that we all have to get to is this balance between being so subjective, so engaged, so much part of what you're doing, and yet stepping back and saying, it doesn't work. This is what art is about to me. It's about being so involved, so engaged with the gaffer, with the team, with that moment, and yet finding a way to step back and say, it's not working, or wow, that's beautiful, or when you light the scene, say yes, but let's turn off that light back there. So this balance between subjectivity and objectivity is what art is about to me. Is this astonishing, you have to be engaged, you have to be totally subjective, and yet you have to find a way to step back. Now I have the great privilege of being two people. I'm schizophrenic, one said. You know, I'm Duke of Hong in there with the team, but I'm Christopher Doyle stepping back and criticizing Duke of Hong. So I mean, start learning Chinese is my No, but I'm serious. It's an astonishing privilege that I've been given to be so much a part of what I do, and yet to have come from somewhere else. And that's that. And you have to find that space as an artist, that balance between total connection and yet
objectivity about what you're doing and what it means, and if it's working or not. And that's tough. That's not easy to do, especially when it's a 20-hour day on a set in the middle of the Gobi Desert.
I kind of wanted to ask you, Chris, and maybe everyone as well, I'm curious, have you ever thought of the audience when making a choice in regards to that? Being so personal and having these choices come from such a deep place inside of oneself, but yet we present our work on these screens for more than just us.
We dare to present our work.
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
have to be,
But do you ever...
It's not arrogance. It's we're as scared as anybody else. But then, why doesn't somebody with an iPhone make the film instead of me?
Totally. But have you ever made a choice because you thought of the audience and not yourself? And I'm curious if anybody else feels that way. I'm curious.
No, that's why I'm not so big in Hollywood.
I definitely think about the audience a lot, and I think it comes back to the three-person in the cinema, is that is what the image is about. It is about ultimately meeting an audience and having the audience with their experience have an experience. So I often think about it, but not in terms of making something for them that might go down easily, or but in terms of maybe remember to respect your audience and have that in mind, that the audience will do something with them on their own with your images, and respect them in that sense, and not try to make it easy or try to translate too much because you're afraid that your vision won't come across. But remember to respect your audience, I think.
I think to me, film is about repetition. It's about time.
你今晚發佈會見到我。
It's a dance. For me, the engagement, like we started, 3 people in cinema, bullshit. The engagement between what's happening in front of the camera and how to share it, as we started to talk between the last six, with the audience. I think this is what I like to hear other people. I know. This is the love of my life. Leslie, I didn't know. I 8 films with him before he killed himself. Killed himself 10 years ago, by the way. You know why he killed himself? Because he didn't want to get old. He wanted us to remember him just like this. We won't do it. We want you to remember us for our next film, not the last film. So, I don't know, how do you engage with that? We have to have a gaffer talk about it.
It's important to always be supportive to my director of photography and be up, and like important to be up to date with like what's going on like in the market. So that's why I go a lot to like trade shows, because sometimes when we work for pre-production about how we're going to do it and what equipment we're going to be using, so it's important to know that there is something that can be very useful, and just like being able to provide it.
Is it the equipment or the where you are with the image? I mean, those images are all about the moment, being in the moment. And I want to ask you, Chris,
yes.
Were you saying anything? I'm panning left, now he's going to be in that doorway, I'm going to pan back, or he sensed you, the relationship with him, like I said, it's a dance. How did he know you were going to pan there? Because he's always...
I didn't know at all. No, it was totally improvised. No.
What?
Totally improvised.
I can't hear you, what?
It was totally improvised. It was
totally improvised, yeah.
It's like, I think Leslie is a great dancer. I mean, he's a great
How many takes did you do on that?
1.
Right, yeah.
What's the question?
No. Well, we're just...
I know, but it's like, I did a film called, I did a music video called Taking Sexy Back with Justin Timberlake. I think it's the best thing I've ever shot in my life. But they cut it. And it was just me and Justin, I mean, he just took me somewhere. And I was hand-holding the camera, just against a wall, and later in the clip, in the video, they cut it up into segments. But it was just me and fucking Justin. And we were just going somewhere. And we took a second take, and it was a piece of shit. It was a total piece of shit. But the first time, we just connected. And where he went, I just went with him. And it was close up, it was just him against the wall. Because they were going to use it as blue screen stuff later. And it was just the most astonishing. I think it's the best thing I've ever shot in my whole life. Is this 5 minutes. It was a long song. It's about 5 minutes. And taking, the song, Taking Sexy Back. Go and have a look. Go on YouTube. It's really good. Okay. And it's just this astonishing engagement that you have. Mm-hmm. And I think this is what we're trying to talk about tonight. What time is it? This afternoon, sorry. We're trying to talk about this, that how do you get to that level? How can you, and we've said it in different ways, how do you remove yourself from the process so it is an engagement? It's not about you, it's not about the film, it's about this moment shared. This moment shared is the most important thing. This moment shared. So how do you get, Super Chris and Super James and Super Ed out of the picture so that it becomes so, dare we say pure, dare we say direct, dare we say, engaging, dare we say subjective enough that it becomes so personal. And I think this is the journey. For me, that's the whole thing about what we're doing, is to get rid of you so that it becomes, like I said, 3 people in cinema. The person in front of the camera connecting with the audience through us. But we're not in the way. We're not interpreting. We're
responding.
We're a tunnel. We're a vortex. We're a conduit. I think this is the real, to me. This is, and we'll never really get there, except from time to time. But this is the journey to me. The journey is to be so fucking good at what we do that the camera doesn't exist anymore. I mean,
well, it's like a musician. There's a rhythm to images, and it's about your experience with that image that you partake in. And the great thing, like starting out in documentaries, or when I started out in cinema verite, I worked with the Maisel brothers, and I would watch Al, and they would never ask someone to do something again if he missed it. And he would say to me, it will happen again. And it does. You just have to trust the moment you're in. And if you see something and you miss it, it will happen again in another way. And it's the same thing in operating, that you have to be in the rhythm with the moment. And it's something, if you miss, just be patient, it will be there again.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last time too, but I think you should really, but I want to elaborate a little on it, but what we talked about loving the actors, and I think that is very crucial to the way you behave around them. And my background, both my parents are actors and my sister's an actress too, so I really grew up at the theater. So I definitely have a soft spot for actors, and that's something that I really hold dear and bring with me, and used to look at the actors with a lot of care and love, because I think they need to put themselves even more into everything they do, and they need all the love they around them, and we are the closest person next to them. And yeah, we talked about the value of the cinematographer nod at the end of a take, how much that really means for the actors, because you are the closest. You're really right next to them. You can smell each other. You can really feel each other. And at the end of a take, give them that love. think is really important.
I think it's funny, sometimes as cinematographers we complain about this idea that the director now wants to go to not rehearse and just roll on take one. And I get that's a challenge, and there's a lot of reasons why that can be difficult, especially when you're doing technical stuff. But you know, the idea of take two of that take was not right, and it didn't work for you. And with Justin, sounds like similar. You know, it happens to me constantly, and I have no idea. I can't sit here and explain to you why take two didn't feel the same feeling, and why the Maisels don't want to do it again. I think there's something special about that I do think is a bit about energy. And it's something that I you know, try to be sensitive to a focus puller or to a gaffer that might want to bring a little bit more fill light maybe in, but there's a balance, and I think as a cinematographer you have to sort of be aware of that balance about, you know, is take one fine? Because, you know, maybe, yeah, there's a bit of a buzz in it, but it's possible and actually probably probable that that take is better than any other take on that whatever series, you know, to me.
I think maybe the first time it's not knowing exactly what's going to happen, it's creating that tension.
Yeah.
And the second time, you already kind of have a memory of what happened at the first take. So you're starting already kind of to plan that in, even if that's just unconsciously. And maybe that takes away of that energy, that tension that you described, you know?
That's why it's good to mention documentaries. Like I started as well, and I still do documentaries, and this is a good, like, I don't know the exercise, but it's a good place to learn this, because you have to always be there, very present, because it's not going to happen again, or maybe something else will happen, but you have to be super focused. And I think this is as well, like, the idea, like, to be always aware and to always look, and not to just to look exactly what you are doing. And that's why there was, I mean, as well, like, about the actors, like, I remember that for the first time I had this problem when an actor asked me, like, what do I think about his acting, and I wasn't actually that concentrated, so I couldn't tell. And now I know that this, like, I should know what to say.
The video just show is like it's the best pickup line in China, like in the bar pickup line, like every boy uses it in the bar.
No, this.
What is the line?
It's a 1 minute thing.
This line. So we are together for 1 minute.
Oh, yeah.
This line. I mean, there's 750,000 virgins no longer because of this line.
Yeah.
It's a. Yeah, you know, right? I mean,
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
probably 1 million. I mean, this is the best. Some of you in the audience, you have to learn Chinese, but it was. I mean, every young guy was using it for the next year or two. It was the classic pickup line. Just give me 1 minute of your time. We spent 1 minute of our time together. Yes, baby. We didn't play the love scene. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the.
Wait, what's the pickup one?
He says, "Give me 1 minute
1
of
minute
it."
with you.
Are you watching the bloody thing? Fucking sleeping again. I mean, just because we gave you a beer doesn't mean you sleep on set. Yeah, it was like a year after the film was released. It was like, I mean, there must be at least 20,000 maternity cases because of this line. So I think to keep the energy going, we should play number 10, because that's what it's all about. There we were. Hold on a minute. I'll tell you the story. You heard it last night, but they didn't hear it. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Shut up. Shut up. Stop. So there we were, as one does, trying to get, what's the word? The metaphor. I mean, Wong Kar-wai always says, what is the metaphor for the Tropic of Capricorn? No, the Tropic of Cancer. No, Capricorn, because we're in the Southern Hemisphere. What the fuck are you talking about? Where is the metaphor? And then he plays some music, He says, doesn't this feel like the highway going into town? I said, really? I mean, he's talking in all this metaphorical stuff, you know. Chris, go to the north and work out what it's all about. Which is, I mean, basically he doesn't know what the fuck he wants to do, and he's just, you know, sending me off to sort of fill in the space between the ideas, which is wonderful in a certain way. That you again, as we've been talking tonight, this afternoon, it feels like night. I'm sorry. Anyway, we've been talking this afternoon about this wonderful challenge, which is our responsibility, is to give the words their image, right? That's what it's about. That's what I think cinematography is about. Is to, as I say in my bullshit, a way with words, a way of working with words and giving them the resonance that they deserve, or going beyond what the words themselves say. I think that's what it's, to me, that's what it's totally about. So there we are. So we're so the border between Argentina and Brazil and Paraguay is this place called Foz Iguazu, which means the Falls of Iguazu, which is probably the second biggest waterfall in the world. And if you put your hand in the water, it would break. It is like 30,000 million liters every second. So we're trying to have this shot where we want to have this sense of, in the story, which is called Happy Together, the story that the lovers, the two guys, it's not working. Something's going wrong. So there's a sense of loss, which is symbolized by the waterfall. But the waterfall is just like Niagara. You know, there's all these hotels all around it. So we just want to, we don't want to see the hotels. We want to see just the water. So I'm in a helicopter which is about as big as from here to here. And I'm sitting here. This is the outside of the helicopter. And we have a zoom lens, an Agino zoom lens. I'm pushing it.
5 to 250.
Yeah, yes. It was really good lens. Yeah, really great. Anyway, just shut up. Okay, so there we are. So we're looking down. We're trying to look down. You have to be 1.5 kilometers above the falls, otherwise you get sucked in by the downflow of the water. Really, it's so dangerous. It's so powerful. So I'm sitting there. This is the helicopter, and this is like we've got a frame here, you know, and then we're looking down with the zoom lens, and we didn't. The first take we didn't get it quite so. So I said, why don't we tilt the helicopter? So now I'm like this, and this is when I realized what cinematography is all about, which we're going to show you right now. I was going to fucking fall out of the thing into the eternity of cinematography, and then I realized what it's really all about, and this is what the clip is about. And this is what I shot, and this is how I felt. And I think this is how it really is all about.
Which one do you disagree with? I'm hard of hearing.
Which one do you disagree with?
Disagree with? Which statement?
All of them. I don't know. I think we started, we were on the same track. I really believe it's about trust. I really believe it's about, as we're saying in our different ways, why spend 6 months of your life with someone like, did I say James Cameron again? Wonderful people, like, you know. I mean, it's your life. It's not just a movie. And I think this is what we're trying to, you know, that you happen to. By the way, it seems that you're working with a certain director for a number of films, right?
Yeah.
Why?
11.
Does his wife know?
He's not married yet.
Maybe we see if they have any questions.
I think. Then?
Do you have any questions?
There's all these people there. I thought we were just talking amongst ourselves. Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to ask all of you the moment before you were shooting your first feature, because I'm going to shoot as a director my first feature next year. and I think a lot of us are in the like similar situation before our. Yeah. So how was this experience for you, and how did it change throughout the years for you working on films?
You better ask the younger people because we don't remember.
I want to ask you all.
For me, it was very interesting. It's going back a long stories. The director I work with for my first feature, I shoot his first documentary, and then it comes his first feature. And that time I was in Belgium, I wasn't in China, and. Before 2 weeks before the shooting, before the actual shooting, and he called me and I'm gonna to shoot this 2 weeks after. Can you come back? At that moment, I don't think it's possible. It's like his first feature and he only get 2 weeks to production. I don't think it's possible. But I say, okay, I can come back. Just if I sign the contract, I will come back. And the day after, he sent me the contract, the production company sent the contract, and I sign it, and I come back. It is very adventure because I shoot it with a monocle camera, so we only got the material in black and white. I think for both of us, it's an adventure, and I think the whole 2 weeks we feel the stomach, the butterfly in the stomach, like every day can't really sleep. And that time is very interesting because that time I just break up. I dated someone for 4 years and I break up. So the 2 weeks per production, I was moving out and per production, moving out and per production. So it was a very emotional, but I think the stress helped me a little bit. Yeah, the stress, the emotional, everything. So me and director, we basically stay together for 24 hours. Like 20 hours talking about film, 4 hours talking about personal life. And then we got along like for 40 days. That's the experience.
So the first film I made with Barry, it was fun because what became very clear was how necessary it was to make something. We were making films in California, and the studio system is a different system than we were operating in. We had to sort of decide we were making a film. No one was going to give it to us, so the decision was ours. And it became very clear, I think, very quickly how necessary it was. And an example of that, I think, was I used to take the camera equipment that I owned was a small camera and a small lighting package. I put it in my Honda Civic, and I would drive it to the set. I would then drive my car back to my house, pick up the bicycles that were props of the movie, and ride the bicycles to the set for Barry and the actors to have bicycles in the scene. And I think it was just an example of just how much it was important for me, and clearly for Barry as well, and everyone involved in the film to do it. It became almost like no one was going to let us not do it. I think it was that active choice that became very clear for us. And I think we still bring that energy to the sets on Beale Street, on Moonlight, on the next movie as well, I'm sure. It's just that need to do it, and I don't know where that need comes from. I have no idea. I think if I understood why, I probably wouldn't do it, to be honest with you.
Do you need to do your film?
What did you say? Like,
I think we're saying the same thing. Don't
Yes, I need to do it, and there are so many, there are so many obstacles. But I really, really need to and want to shoot it in New York next year.
Do it.
Yes, I will.
You only have four choices of DOPs at the moment. I'm sorry. I'm in Hong Kong. You're there, but the rest of them are.
I'd love to shoot with all of you.
Can you imagine the four of us? How many of us are there? 1, 2, 3. We have a good gaffer, by the way, don't forget. Don't forget, you have the best gaffer in the world, right? 2, that's 2, 4, 6. How many are we? 2, 4, 6. The 8 of us on set. Do you have really good cheese? I mean, can you imagine your beer budget? It's going to be...
Okay, Chris, I'll choose you, of course.
My experience is that the best films I made is when I was out of love. I'm serious. Yeah. That there's something about being alone and lost that actually clears your head. I really... It's so sad to tell everyone. It's so difficult to explain. But anyway, I'll go on. I think this is the thing, to clear the senses, to be, you know, you don't have to fall out of love. You don't have to, you know, throw your husband out of the window, you know, unless you need some help. Okay, I'll help later. Okay, but I think this is it. This is to get to this space which is clean, which is empty, which is like we said, that I think it's that balance between total need and yet total remove. You have to be in that, you know, like I said, which I have the great privilege of being my Chinese me and my Australian me, that you have to have that balance between total commitment and yet total remove. And you have to be empty and zen. You have to be zen, I guess is the word, to really go there, because every minute of every day, it's going to be totally different from what you planned. We know that, right? Every bloody minute of every day. And so what is your intent? So I think this is always, I think we all have a similar experience, and this is the great honor of our profession, of being cinematographers, that actually, when everyone else is losing it, actually we're the only ones who could say, this is what it's going to be. Actually, we have huge and wonderful responsibility to say this is what's going to be, because as we know, many directors don't have a visual experience. Many actors are scared. So again, we have to encourage them. We have to be. So I think it's So are you a cinematographer?
No, I'm a director.
So I think you. Okay, ready.
Sure.
No. I won. No, you won. You won. Oh, you got him. Okay.
Oh my God. Thank you.
That's much easier than walking through an agent, right?
But you know, Chris, I was lucky to shoot with you just one sequence. I brought it with me actually last year. Do you remember?
Can you put it on screen?
Yeah, we can put it on screen. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I have it with me actually.
Go ahead.
While they're putting it on screen, it brings up the point. We are the shrink on set. Yeah. We're the ones that have to be the even keel. We have to be the best friend of the director with his insecurities and his problems.
Or hers.
What?
Or hers.
Hers. Camera woman.
Or hers. I'm a male chauvinist. I can't get over it.
Donald Trump of cinematography?
I'm part of the Me Too movement, you know, anyway. Or her. I already said I work mostly with female directors. Even if they're men, they're female directors. So,
touché.
I won't say. But anyway, but also with the crew. I always go into a film, you're asking what the experience is to go into a film, even if you're experienced. And I always say to myself, where is the problem going to be here? Because it's never in the same department. It's always in a different department and a different person, even if you've worked with those people a number of times. So I have to be that feedback or that that medium to deal with. Last night I thought I had my operator that I've done like 6 films with for a new film, and he told me I got to retire. So I didn't say anything. I just said, yeah, I respect your opinion. Please read the script and let's talk later. I didn't say, you got to do this film. But already, you know, there was the first surprise I had. I thought I had my whole crew together, and then they can't get in touch with the grip. He's gone missing. So it's going to be different each time. It's never the same. And every film is your first film. Don't ever think, because you have experience, that it's going to be easier the next film. It's the same problems, just different ones.
Yeah, thank you so much for telling me this, because yeah, I'm really like a few months before shooting, so it's super important for me to hear that. Yeah, thank you, Ed.
Yeah. But what are you going to do with 8 cinematographers? We're all standing by.
That's not such a crazy idea. Godard came to me once and said he was going to hire 3 cinematographers, and the way he expressed it was, I don't hire one actor. Why should I hire one cameraman? So I said, all right. So he had different scenes to shoot with different cameramen.
Who was this?
Pardon? It was Passion. But then what he did, only Godard could do this, he went to production designers, he went to actors, and he got all these people together to say, yes, I'll be part of your film. And then he called us all back and said, oh, you're all much too expensive. Got the money to make the film, and then made it with the way he wanted. Without there are 3 cameramen or 3 production designers.
Let's play clip number 17, please. That's for you, you know. Where are you? That's for you.
Hi there, guys. I'm imagining the same. A lot of us, you know, learning out, we're experimenting and doing different things. And for me, at first, the traditional cinematography way and rules and stuff like that, a bit scary at first because I'm thinking, do I need to do it like this? So I just wanted to hear from you guys if there's times where you've done some.
Women also, not just guys.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any times where you've purposely done something unconventional, you've made a mistake, like Chris has said, the mistakes are style. So I was just wondering if there's any times you've done something that's just very unusual, something with the lens, shutter, or lighting, and if you've got any interesting examples of things like that. Thank you.
Oh, well, you want to do one?
No, please.
So, I made a film called Fallen Angels, and we were using film at that time, long ago. And then there was something wrong with the film stock, and I don't know, it was old, or it was maybe the assistant opened whatever. So the only way we could, and we didn't have the actors anymore. So here we go. So we said, well, let's really make it transfer in high contrast black and white. And it looked, I mean, at least we had the scene. And then we said, well, we only have one scene in black and white, why don't we make a few more scenes in black and white? And then we sort of thinking it through, and we said, well, what if every time there's a conflict or confusion, or there's something not going right with the characters in the story, we just switch to black and white. So that became the style of the film. But it was totally compromised. It was totally like, it was like trying to work out what the hell to do with this scene. That if we just had one scene like that, it would really, it wouldn't work. It would be, you know, whatever the word, artistic, I guess is the word. And so we tried to sort of make what was supposedly a mistake become actually a choice, a positive aspect of the film, and actually what people would call style. I think this is, you have to approach the weather like that. You have to approach the budget like that. You know, suddenly it starts to rain. What are you going to do? It says it was a beautiful sunny day on the beach. You know, so how are you going to convey that? I think this is the great challenge and the great privilege that we have as cinematographers, is to interpret, to give an idea, a form that it wouldn't have had if it wasn't done this way. And I think this is you have to be brave enough to make that, to make what's the word, to stand, to say this will work. And I think this is a huge thing, because you have to be, again, how do you get to that point where you actually say this is going to work? How can you get to the point where you can say day for night is the night of this film? How can you get to that point where the team and the actors and the director and the producers actually trust you to make a film with no red in it, for example, etc., etc. So this is the journey. It's not about, you know, it's not the artistic stuff. It's this journey of being focused enough, confident enough, of being true enough to yourself that what you're going to do is special to this film. I think this is the great challenge and the great beauty and the great honor that we have as filmmakers, is that, yes, this film is this way because we're shooting it. And we have to take that responsibility.
It means as well, right, being close to the editing, because like for example, for me it's very important, maybe because as video artist, I did all stages as well, like editing, so, yeah, whoa, okay. so, you know, like those decisions that you took with the director, it's because you were as well like implicated into the editing, and editing is super important, so I wonder, like, what is your implication with the editing?
Sometimes hopefully you'll be invited in to give your comment and remind, because I think we've seen every frame of a film, so I think it's your duty to kind of remind the editor and the director sometimes, because they'll be focused on structure and scenes and stuff that are more on a more storytelling level. So I think it's your duty to remind them about the visuality and about the shots that you actually did. They will forget when they're weeks on end in the editing room, and they'll just settle on one take, and you'll come back and maybe remind them that we actually did a much better take or a different angle or whatever.
You have that relationship with your director? Wow.
Yeah, for the films I've
Most of us don't have that.
No, I feel very lucky about it, but yeah, definitely a big privilege that you shouldn't assume. But I mean, you can try and yeah, go for that.
Well, the images are completed in the editing room. Actually, the audience completes your images, but I think it's very important to try to get involved with the director in the later cuts of the film. They let you, you know, they have early screenings that you give some input. I've been very lucky. Todd is very open and has people come in, look at the cut to see if it works or not, what works, what they get, what they don't get, and he modifies things. Some directors are more restrictive about that, but most of the best directors and the directors out here, you should play the film off of people that have never know the story or seen the film, and people that you're very close to in making the film. Because like I say, in the editing room, the rhythm of what your images are can change from the way you shot the film. And so that's why it's important, I think, you know, to try to make a film around the director visually, it never works, because if they didn't perceive or understand why they're creating the images the way they are, it's not going to be realized in the editing room. Sometimes it could be improved in the editing room. So for me, it's very important to get involved in the editing room and talk and say why. I can even tell you a scene in Carol at the end when the two women are together over the table and she says, "I love you," and they cut out of the scene. I go, "Oh my God, guys. That's her reaction shot. That's what the viewer, the audience will feel in the reaction shot." They go, "All right." And then they put 3 more frames in. But, and so, but develop the relationship also with the editor so they hear you too, because they're the one that's going to influence the director's choices a lot of times with the editing.
Right. I mean, I think what the editor has taught me is, as a cinematographer, is not to fall in love with your own work too much, because so many times, like, your favorite shot is not in there, or it's cut out. You realize they see your work totally in a totally different light, right? So it makes me realize that sometimes it's not just about a pretty picture, but that's also the beauty of it. That's also why I love seeing what somebody else does with your footage. That's really interesting, you know? Like, you finish your shoot, you do your other projects, and then you come back at a later point in time and you see something you didn't expect based on what you did. And I think that's kind of like really exciting to me. That's what I look forward to as well, to see the edit.
I like it when they cut out my best shots, because then I can use them in the next film. They cut it out, nobody saw it, so I can use it. More questions, please.
People want to go to Cameraperons, probably.
What do you mean?
Hoping to have a.
Remember, we're here in Camera.
Yeah, hoping to have a life-changing experience. And I was wondering if the people on the panel would be able, the cinematographers would be able to share a life-changing experience that might have changed the way you see the craft or the way you view cinematography.
What is the question?
Well, have you had a life-changing experience that's changed the way you work, that you do your art?
Yeah, I've been drinking Polish beer. It really changed my life.
Actually, I have one experience that really affected me. When I was in film school, I had like a near-death accident. Like, it was really close. It was like the skiffle.
Pity.
Thank you. But I think that really influenced me, because it made me realize that the potential danger of your work, and you know, like.
When you were working?
Yeah, it was on set.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, people die on set.
Yeah, what happened? I know.
I was standing like next to one of those, how do you call those stands where they put on the lights, and we were just a bunch of students like trying to break it down, but then the thing fell, and it fell on me, but it didn't fall on my head. If it fell on my head, I wouldn't be sitting here, but it was this close. But I had to go to the hospital and everything. It was super dangerous. I think of that experience a lot, because I just realized, like, you know, if it was just a centimeter of a difference, so, you know, I am very grateful that I'm still here and doing it, but at the same time, it makes me realize this danger that's there as well, and how careful one needs to be on set as well. You know, I think that has influence. Maybe, I think you should talk about that.
A month ago, I had an electric shock on set, working, so now I'm just being more careful. Yeah, no, it's crazy to think that, like, because everything we use is quite safe to use, but the fuse didn't go off 10 seconds later, so everything was just a bit, like, crazy to think that if there was a fixture with a more current, I would not probably been able to let go. And then, like, for 10 seconds, like, until the fuse go, that would have been the end for me. So it's quite crazy to think that, like, you're going to work and then that might happen. But still doesn't stop me to do what I have to do.
It makes you value it more in a way, you know?
Well, the end of a documentary I did with Robert Frank, as he was getting out of the car, I asked Robert, what happens when you die? And he looked at me and he said, bad light.
When I was on Moonlight, during the course of production, we were shooting in some night exteriors on a street. If you remember the scene, it was, you know, the teenagers could get out of the car after they've had that scene on the beach. And when we were sort of setting up the lighting, there were a bunch of children from the neighborhood that were kind of running around and playing around the street, and they'd come over to the video village and were watching the monitors, and our producers had invited them into the space and put them on the chairs to sort of watch what we were up to. And it was really interesting because their parents eventually kind of came over because they were looking for them because they didn't know where they were, and had told us that, like, you know, usually they're not allowed outside at night because the neighborhood is quite dangerous. But because of our lighting that we were lighting the street with, their parents had actually allowed them to leave the home for the evening, which I thought was just kind of wonderful in many ways. It just sort of felt like not only is our relationship with the audience on the screen, but also within the communities that we occupy for certain moments. And to me, that was like I don't know, just a very life-changing moment for me in terms of how I interact with spaces.
When you're working creative on a project, how do you deal with the fact that you can get emotional too close to a project, that you don't maybe, know if you would make the best decision or not?
Is it ever too close? I don't know. I'm not sure if I know if I've ever felt too close.
Well, the right kind of close, I guess. It depends on how close, or in what way you're close to the project. I mean, I think it's good if you're close in a way that it becomes, that you're really familiar with the content, or that it almost becomes your second nature. I mean, that's a good kind of close, I would say, but I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
If you are so involved and so long on the project that you maybe lose the distance of if you're doing the right decision or maybe, you know, maybe not so right.
Yeah, that's kind of a question like in documentaries on a level of morality of are you exploiting the person or the subject? And I you know, because I've done a lot of documentaries that, you know, dealt with death and other things that were, you know, very personal, and I think it's the way you handle it. You know, if you do it in a way that has empathy to the material, I think it's all right. You have to be the one to decide if you're exploiting it or not. You know, I did a film with Larry Clark, Ken Park, and a number of people said, you know, that was exploitive, and because there's very explicit sexuality with younger people, you know, younger, well, they weren't underage, but they looked like they were underage. And what I said is, if the images are there to tintillate, it's different than showing that these people are being dehumanized. And the film, for me, was about how the parental world didn't have the tools to deal with the adolescent world, the children, and the children had to became their own family. And so there's a difference between nurturing sex and exploitive sex, and that's what we were trying to show. So I really think maybe it's up to you, the audience, to decide if those questions are posed or not.
Whatever it is, if it's technical, I mean, art is what artists make. So the journey is to become an artist, not to make art. We're not aiming to make some super astonishing piece of art. I think that the journey that you should partake, that you should engage on, is to become maybe a good Catholic, or a good Jew, or a good cook, or a good mother or father. I think this is the real thing, and I think people, the technical stuff is, thankfully they're all here and they'll help us on the way. But the thing is to get there, and hopefully some of what we're talking about today is a little bit of a suggestion that about what has helped us to get there, or is helping us on the journey. And I think this is, this is really important. That the journey is the destination. That work on yourself, make your own, have your own moral values. Learn enough technically that you can do, that you don't have to worry about what camera you're using. Like a blind, I just called to say I love you. I mean, you have to be a fucking, what's his name? The blind. Stevie Wonder. Stevie, you have to be a Stevie Wonder of cinematography. You have to be a Stevie Wonder of cinematography. The keyboard is there, and yet you're going out there somewhere special because I just called to know I love you. This is what it's about. Thank you. I want to play the most important clip of the evening, because we should all say, it's not even evening, I was so confused by this night. But I made a film called Rabbit Proof Fence, which I think is possibly the most important film I ever made, because it actually changed the world. It really did, because it's about Aboriginal, it's about a huge travesty of justice and a mismanagement of ideas and white people controlling black people, indigenous people, etc., etc. and it's called Rabbit Proof Fence. And it actually, after the film was released, it actually changed government policy, which is almost impossible for a film to actually change. But the most important thing is the kids saw through all the bullshit. So let's play clip number 20, and you'll understand what it's all about. Because a 5-year-old kid is going to tell you what it's all about.
So has it been really hard acting?
Yeah, yes.
What's been hard about it?
Waking up early in the morning. And doing it again and again and again and again and again.
Just to be a group.
Again.
So what do you hope to be when you get older?
A bit. First I want to be an actress, and then I want to be a
5 years old, by the way.
a director.
Why do you think you want to do directing? What do you like about that?
Yelling out and saying action and say cut and you do nothing.
Thank you all. As we know, the director does nothing, we do everything. Isn't that the point of the discussion tonight? Thank you all for being here. We'll be back next year, of course. And I think everyone should stand up and acknowledge. You know why we come here every year? Especially these two. You don't know how much you're giving us. Do you know that? You think we're talking out blah blah, and we're telling you something that matters. Of course it matters to us, but being here with you matters much more. And what you give us is really, really why we continue. Like the kid, like a 5-year-old kid. Thank you.
No, YouTube. Just video.